D. Pearson, excellent climber. Will no doubt catch me at some point. All right, welcome for those new to my channel. Welcome for those returning back. Welcome back to the Sufferfest 2025, also known as Flamme Rouge Racing. Gotta get my brain on straight before this morning. So it is a final day individual time trial through Richmond on probably the hardest sprint course this entire series has to offer.
Is it though?
And the reason why I'm saying it's the hardest is because we have no less than half a dozen sharp, hard, even though they're short, but sharp, hard climbs. And then 2 sprints, which the first 2 sprints are on pretty flat, really good terrain. But the last sprint is up a monstrous little climb. Super short, but if you don't go into it with power, you're not going to come out of it with power. And so today is the day of attrition. And to get here, it's taken quite a bit. And I got to say, the things that I've learned when it comes to being a sprinter in these kind of series.
Uh-oh, Astro, here comes another lecture.
Is there's probably 3 different factors that go into surviving on a competitive level. First one is racecraft, meaning knowing what wheels to choose, knowing how you perform in those wheels, and what the detriment of the choices are going to be. The second is nutrition, knowing your nutrition timing, which is not only going to help you in race, but also recover post-race. And the third, and truly in my opinion, the final thing, the thing that is honestly lowest on the priority list is raw watts. You need to be powerful, for sure. But without the right nutrition timing, without the right racecraft, that raw power is not going to be used well. And I've seen that in my own performance, where yes, I've had great performances, but I've also had performances where I knew I could have probably done better, but I didn't, because I went into the sprint at the wrong time, or with the wrong gear, or just completely drained and depleted and couldn't do it again. So raw watts is definitely important, but again, in my opinion, not the highest priority. But then again, when you're racing with people like Felix, who he and I are tied for 3rd place right now. So today truly is the, today's the day. Today's the day. Today's the day that, we find out who's the better sprinter between he and I. It's been awesome racing with him, even though we're not in the same time zone. Just chatting back and forth on our, whether it's on the YouTube comments or in the Companion app. It truly has been fantastic getting to know him a little bit more as a sprinter and what he's capable of. And so it's going to be a fantastic finish no matter how we end up. The top 2 places are set. Those guys are absolute monsters when it comes to sprints, and just truly proven that you can outperform with the right skill set. So got 1:30 left and just absolutely ready to smash this last course. Got the psychologist in the chat in the race, which is exciting. Great channel, provided a lot of good information with his breakdowns. And so if you're not going through his channel or many of the others that I've mentioned in the past, make sure you are looking them up, subscribing, because not only do they offer great reviews of their own performances, but also breakdowns of the stages, which help when it comes to knowing when and where to time your sprints correctly, or your performances, period, whether it's GC or polka dots. So it is going to be a fantastic race today. I'm back on the DT Swiss disc wheels because while there is a lot of climbing and it's going to be painful on some of these climbs, the 2 initial sprints are on basically flat roads. And then the 3rd sprint, I need the momentum to get up that hill. So that's going to be biggest priority right there. All right, so not sure what happened to the audio there, but it cut out. So as we barrel towards the last few seconds, I'm basically just getting prepped, getting myself in the right mood with the right music, and getting out of the gate. So this was a hard stage. But I'm going to jump forward to the sprints because you don't need to see me suffer for the first 40 minutes or whatever it was to get to the first sprint. That was probably the hardest part of the entire stage, is knowing that not only do we have these, sharp, steep climbs and many of them back to back, but once we actually get to the sprints, we were going to be, towards the tail end of the energy supply and, how we felt. So I'm going to jump forward to that and talk you through my first set of sprints. But wait, because why not have an opportunity where something could go wrong? So my chain fell. And, again, it's happened throughout the different stages. Whenever I shift into my 39 tooth ring, the chain randomly will fall out. I don't know if it's because I have one chain link too big, or the screws on the front derailleur are not in the right spot, but I'm going to be adjusting that now that this tour is over, so that way that does not happen again. And so now we can talk about my first sprint coming up. So I've done this sprint many a times on the Shimano Find Your Fast, I think it was, or the Flat is Fast. Flat is Fast. That's what it was. And so going into the sprint, my heart rate, you see it in the 160s, and it was more so because I was getting anticipatory of the sprint than my pushing on the power. So I started ramping up the power here a little bit, trying to build up some speed and momentum. I wanted to enter the sprint, 40 plus kilometers an hour. And then I launched my sprint as I usually do, just ahead of the line. So that way I can get as big a boost of speed as possible in that short distance. And to my surprise, because I was, eye on the screen, but also eye on the sprint itself, or my power rather, I did my best to hold my power for as high as I can, for as long as I can, knowing that, those last, 10, 20 meters, whatever it was, I'm going to trail across the line. Even though I did lose a couple kilometers per hour and possibly, a second or two of um, speed, knowing that, that wasn't my actual best sprint overall, I started getting really nervous. I was thinking, okay, I didn't put out enough power there. I didn't hold it long enough. Maybe I could have done better. And, as you can see on the left, I have done better before. Once it pops back up, if it pops back up, but I have done better before. And so, 1488 was good at the moment, but not good enough is my concern. So, gonna fast forward to the start of the next sprint. And as I started getting to that sprint, I'm doing my best to kind of bring my heart rate down, as well as kind of let my legs spin out a bit, because even though there was a little bit of a distance in between and not much elevation change, I knew that didn't have, if I didn't spin out my legs, I knew that I was just going to be wrecked, and I was going to do my best to try and recover as much as possible. You see my heart rate getting down into the 150s, low 150s, and just kind of spinning easy, trying to stay below, mid 200s. And as I start getting closer to the sprint, I'm just trying to breathe long exhales so that way I can, you know, really be as relaxed as possible going into the sprint. And as I start approaching, you see my heart rate start to come back up. And again, it's because of that, the anticipation of that sprint. And then also we're going slightly uphill. And so I wanted to, you know, really not lose a lot of speed on that. You see, started into, the top part of that hill in, 30 something kilometers an hour, sub 40. And so as I hit 40 kilometers an hour, I launch my sprint, start going across the line, and I'm doing my best to hold it. But my legs at this point are cooked. I could not believe how much pain I was in and just trying to give it my absolute all. And as I start approaching 60 kilometers an hour, I stopped. I could not. My legs were in so much pain. And again, came across the line, 18 seconds. And after that, I honestly, I kind of felt like I'd given up on myself in this race. I really did feel like I couldn't believe I did all this work to get here and then not follow through on that sprint, knowing that, Felix and I were tied in points, and he is a strong sprinter, especially on these flat sprints. And so after that, I kept thinking like, man, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get third place because there's no way, that it would be, there's no way that I could compete with him at this point. I couldn't, I couldn't finish that sprint the way that I wanted to. My legs were in so much pain. But this is all part of racing. So I'm going to jump forward to the last sprint. So as I started approaching this climb, I knew that I needed to conserve as much energy as possible. Having watched others race, I knew that coming, especially this climb is steep. It has some really, really steep, bends in the climb, and I didn't want to push hard, but I also didn't want to lose a lot of time momentum on this climb. And so I'm doing my best to stay in the low 200s, low to mid 200s. I'm also trying to not drop my chain again, um, because how embarrassing is that? And just doing my best to ease up this climb as best as possible, trying to, really not give up as much energy as possible to this climb. Because especially as we start approaching this last part, and here I go getting passed by another couple guys. Um, so these guys, the WLBB, we kind of went back and forth throughout the stage. And when they passed me here, I was like, you know what? They're gonna go. I'm not gonna try and really do a lot with trying to keep up with them because they're it seemed like they were working together. Like two or three of them were back to back throughout most of the stage. So good on them. And again, my focus at this point is just getting over this climb without wasting too much energy. But these little, these bends where jumps up into the 20+% kept, almost grinding me to a halt, and making it a little bit harder. So maybe, I should have done a steadier effort. And so as I get through the line, I know that this sprint is coming up. And so as I get to this flat plateau, I start shifting up into the gears, pushing my effort a little bit harder, so that way I can start to build up speed, especially as I get over this little, green and yellow part as we round the corner. Start pushing up my speed a little bit. I will say that keeping my cadence in the upper 80s and 90s range really did make me feel better when it came to my overall power. I felt like I could, perform better in the sprints without, burning out my muscles prior to. But at this point, being the ninth stage, and 10 days straight of racing, I was absolutely sore. So as I approach this, I'm just doing my best to, continue picking up speed without, again, without pushing myself too hard. I knew that I was going to lose a little bit of speed here, but I didn't realize how much I actually lost in the moment. And so when I saw that I got into the low 60s, I kind of panicked a bit. And then I shifted down into gears, and I honestly felt like I shifted down too far. I was spinning, as you see, doing 115 RPM, and staying above 100 RPMs. And I feel like I should have been in a little bit higher gear at this point, but I ended up shifting up a couple times while I was, you know, doing that effort and bringing my watts back up into the, 600s, and just trying to stay there as long as I can until I get to the finish line, just really giving it as much as I could until I cross that line. Because at this point, I knew that for me, the sprinting, the racing ultimately was over. There was nothing else I could do to better my score. And while I do feel like I left some watts on the table and probably lost a second or two, um, because of not being in the right gear and kind of overspinning initially and then not being able to keep up the pace afterwards. I still felt like I gave everything I had to this race, and right at this point just wanted to get done with this race. And so as I go through the rest of Richmond, I start approaching the final hill to climb, and I'm just coasting along as best as possible. Again, I am at this point I'm wrecked. And so I knew once I hit this hill, I wanted to hold, mid 200s, maybe upper 200s if I could. You see, I passed the two WLBB guys, um, and I thought I was doing great, holding my watts, holding my momentum. And then as I start to get to this hill, my chain fell off again. And so when I thought I was doing good, now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I need to get done. I'm trying to get finished. And you see the WLBB guys come right back through and pass me once again. And so when I saw that they had passed me, I was like, okay, I can't let anybody else pass me. I gotta, I want to finish strong. I want to finish as best I can through this, through this last, 700 meters. And so I start ramping up the power into the 300s. And as you can see, I gave literally the last few remaining watts of energy that I had left in me to this final climb. And so as I see the WBB guys ahead of me, I'm thinking like, all right, this is gonna be great for me to, just really get to the line. And my focus was beating them, not because they did anything to me or any real reason other than the fact that they were together, I was by myself, and I had enough pain and trauma through this experience. And so as I blast through, ironically I ended up cutting right in between them and pushing through. And so I knew that it was over. I no longer had to suffer through this race series. And so crossing the line in 46th place, again as an ITT, um, I was probably about, I don't know, what, 20 minutes or something like that behind the leader. It's, it was a tough stage for me. Um, and really did my best to stay, like, keep my average watts in the mid 200s, on the flat parts and even on the downhills. I did, use the downhills to rest a lot. And then going uphill, I stayed in the mid 200s to upper 200s, and, just kind of focused on staying within my FTP range in order to conserve as much energy as possible for the sprints. Because I didn't want to lose a lot of time, but I also didn't want to, um, burn myself out before I hit the sprints, since it was, took so long to actually get there. So now time to find out whether or not Felix and I are still tied for third place.
Drum roll, please.
Surprisingly, no, we are not tied for third place anymore. I ended up edging out Felix by 9 points. Now, I don't know how. I am completely shocked. Again, I honestly, after those first two sprints, I honestly thought he had it. He is such an incredible sprinter, powerful sprinter. So go check out his channel for his video. I'm sure he posted one. I'm going to definitely check it out because I want to see, you know, what the difference was in our sprinting on this stage, because I know we were both tired. We both talked about it in the comments on the companion app. And it's just a matter of, who, I guess today was about who is the most tired. And it really just came down to these last few sprints between us. Um, and so, again, congratulations to him and to all of the top 10 sprinters in this category. Harry Stromberg and Robert Schoberl. Um, Apologize for mispronouncing the name, but you guys are incredible sprinters. Over 100 points ahead of us in these sprints. So I hope I find, videos or, some, just to be able to see your sprints, videos or something, um, to see, what time you set for those sprints so we can look back, aim higher, and there it is. So until the next FRR, I will be in the dirt racing series and anything else that kind of comes across. So appreciate you guys. And again, uh, thank you for everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting, interacting, and I will catch you guys on the next race. Guys, Miguel from that thing you just watched. If you know where that reference is from, please leave it down in the comments below. One of my favorite channels. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, watch videos, playlists, whichever pop up. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope to see you next time.